The United Nations has been rigged up to this day. It's been rigged against Israel. It's been rigged against what God would have for the world and have for the nation. They take votes. Whoever gets the most votes wins. So if they decide they want to be able to, persecute Israel, they take a vote, or not persecute, basically allow persecution and don't call it persecution. They'll take a vote and say, well, is that persecution or not persecution? And if the majority says it's not persecution, then that's what they'll say. The United Nations official word will be, this is not wrong. Well, that actually has happened over and over again because there's an unstoppable voting bloc made up of communist nations and made up of Islamic nations that are against Israel and the future of Israel. But guess what? Oh, it's exciting. I can't wait to tell you. But first, I want you to see this unstoppable voting bloc so you can understand. Every time you show up to take a test, you always fail the test if you're a student and your name is Israel, because they've been against Israel, but they're busting that thing up. But first, let's look at the unstoppable voting bloc and how it came to pass. Check it out.
No matter how you feel about the United Nations, it's the one place on planet Earth where nations get together and attempt to speak with one voice. That's why their resolutions can make a big difference. So when people all around the world see that approximately 40% of the UN Human Rights Council resolutions were against just one country, most of us would assume that country must be a really bad place. Perhaps ruled by, say, a genocidal dictator who kills his own people, or maybe a tyrant continually threatening to annihilate another country. But actually, the country that has been condemned more times than every repressive country on Earth combined is a democracy. The only viable democracy in the Middle East, Israel. And with these repeated resolutions against Israel, it's easy to see why so many in the international community perceive Israel as a major cause of world problems. But are all these resolutions really justified? Because whether or not you agree with how Israel is handling its many challenges, when you do a basic comparison, like the number of deaths Israel is responsible for with the number of condemnations they've received, and then make that same comparison with other countries, it paints a surprising picture of a possible double standard. What could explain the enormous imbalance? Quick history lesson. In 1975, Cuba needed to gather support in order to take down the biggest democratic superpower dominating the global schoolyard, the United States. Seeing how the UN was mostly controlled by the democratic superpowers, Cuba, along with other communist nations, finally found a way to even the playing field, because it just so happened that, at the same time, a number of Muslim countries were looking for new, creative ways to gang up on Israel. So the communists realized that by joining the Muslims' anti-Israel coalition, they could create an unstoppable voting bloc inside the UN. Because with every resolution they passed against Israel, they simultaneously discredited Israel's ally, the United States. So in 1975, the newfound communist Muslim voting bloc spearheaded the passing of a UN resolution that officially stated, Zionism is a form of racism. Yes, Zionism. The movement trying to find ways to protect Jews from racism was redefined as racism, which is kind of like saying the civil rights movement is racism and Martin Luther King is a racist. This is why resolution after resolution after resolution against Israel from 1975 until this day easily passes through the UN.
It's amazing, isn't it? That's how it's been up to this day. The original purpose of it was to be able to prevent these kind of things from taking place. Israel's been attacked again and again. Israel is a peaceful nation. They defend themselves. They never are aggressive. They always defend themselves. Think about Israel. Israel's widest point is like 70 miles wide. That's how small Israel is. You got to defend yourself. But if you have an unstoppable voting bloc, in other words, every time you carry your test to the teacher, you fail because they have the whole school rigged against you. They're not worried about anything you say because it's the number of votes. But guess what? You're going to see at the United Nations where this crew that's in the unstoppable voting bloc, they're fixing to vote against Israel again. This particular man, you're seeing his book right. He has a book right now called Son of Hamas. The reason why he's got a book, his name is Masab Youssef. The reason why his book's called Son of Hamas, he is the son of one of the leaders of the government of the Palestinian people, a government that forced their way in. They didn't vote them in. These are the ones that were firing rockets up into the southern parts of Israel and
from the Gaza Strip.
The Gaza Strip, and the ones that were promoting, naming streets after people that have killed Jews. And
putting children in front of rocket launchers in hopes that when Israel would retaliate and defend themselves, they would actually hit children. This is
and we actually showed you that on VFN TV, where other secular reporters They were too scared. They were right on a balcony to be able to point their cameras
And
right
they
there.
would not point
because
the
it would have cost them to do that.
Yeah.
And that's been prophetic. But listen, I mean, God saw that.
That's right.
And so not only he has a book called The Son of Hamas. It's a great book. I encourage you to read it. But in his journey from being the son of the evil government leader, that he finds this out over time. It takes a while for you to find out that your dad's Lucifer. No, it's fine to find. And so when he does, he literally comes out. And there's a whole movie about his journey called The Green Prince.
Yeah.
He spoke at the Jerusalem Post. If you think of the son of the enemy of you, speaks at the Jerusalem Post, and it was amazing. They even gave him a name tag, Green Prince, son of Hamas.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and he's just a beautiful person. I have so much respect for him because he's not against anything. He is actually for. He is for what's right.
Yeah.
He's for everyone. He's for the people that make it, not for evil people to treat people evilly. As a matter of fact, I want you to take this little movie trailer to The Green Prince so you can get a little understanding of who he is. Take a look.
This is my chance to be a hero for the sake of the nation. But Allah had other plans for me. He had the right to make the other side feel our pain.
Recruiting is an art, a very difficult art. You need to make him betray his own people.
He asked me, would you work for us? To collaborate with Israel is the most shameful thing.
The first day handling him was the first day of the end of my career. We called him the Green Prince.
My father was the top Hamas leader in the West Bank. He had no clue what I was doing.
It's like recruiting the son of the Israeli Prime Minister.
Deep in my heart, I was really terrified.
A good source needs to be with you, not against you.
You are a target, and you can get killed anytime.
I really felt responsible for Mossad as a source and as a human being.
I was on my own.
He was in a real trouble.
I start to realize that people are dying because of this lie.
This is a big game.
No one else knows about you. You will start to lose your sense of reality.
He's not just a source. He was there for us all the time.
That kind of bond is impossible to break.
Al-Qaeda immediately issued a death sentence for him.
Go underground, don't come back, ever. I am not who you think I am.
So this is who we're talking about. I want you to get a good about. You can find that on Prime, Amazon Prime. Probably get it on Netflix. Go to your local store and buy it. Buy his book. It's an amazing book. I got a chance to read it when I was on a sabbatical, and I was just like, I love this guy. How many people, John, just don't stand up for what they believe
That's
and they
right.
allow people to be ran over, and he sees this injustice.
He risked his life.
He still
Everything.
is. And so he walks in the middle of this unstoppable voting bloc, all these people that are always against Israel, and they're speaking this junk about Palestinian people that's not true, and the Hamas thing about them, because obviously God loves the Palestinian people, but it's governmental people.
Yeah.
And he's right in the middle of them, and he's, to their surprise, and watch their faces, because the unstoppable voting bloc starts looking at Youssef, and he boldly tells the truth about what's going on. Let's join him now at the United Nations.
Israel, the occupying power, continues with its colonial policy and its daily violations. It continues to abuse, to arbitrarily detain, to carry out ethnic cleansing, steal land and natural resources, uproot trees, steal money, Israeli activity to Judaize Jerusalem, demolition of homes, confiscation of land and property, spoiling of natural resources.
Racist violations perpetrated by Israel.
Israel continues to commit various forms of human rights violations in Palestine.
Israel, the occupying power, is advancing in its efforts of mass colonization and continued apartheid. Put an end to this colonialist regime.
Apartheid, atrocities and massive destruction inflicted on the Palestinian people.
War crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, and state terror.
Thank you, United Nations Watch.
Shukran, Sayyid Rais. I take the floor on behalf of the UN Watch. My name is Mus'ab Hassan Youssef. I grew up in Ramallah as a member of Hamas. I address the words to the Palestinian Authority, which claims to be the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. I ask, where does your legitimacy come from? The Palestinian people did not elect you, and they did not appoint you to represent them. You are self-appointed. Your accountability is not to your own people. This is evidenced by your own total violation for their human rights. In fact, the Palestinian individual and their human development is the least of your concerns. You kidnap Palestinian students from campus and torture them in your jails. You torture your political rivals. The suffering of the Palestinian people is the outcome of your selfish political interest. You are the greatest enemy of the Palestinian people. If Israel did not exist, you would have no one to blame. Take responsibility for the outcome of your own actions. You fan the flames of conflict to maintain your abusive power. Finally, you use this platform to mislead the international community, to mislead the Palestinian society, to believe that Israel is responsible for the problem you create. Thank you.
You know, a lot of people want to abide with the Lord, but they just don't have a plan to do it. You can request that plan today at iabide.org.
Thank you for listening to the Greg Lancaster Show. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, Parler, Spotify, iTunes, Getter. I'm talking, we are on every location. Be sure to share us with your friends and go on to the Apple iTunes Store and rate our podcast. When you do that, more people get to hear the Greg Lancaster Show. Thank you for listening.